Welcome to this informational presentation about the 2021 through 2029 Housing Element Update for the City of Chino. Over the next 15 minutes, you will be provided useful background information about the Housing Element Update process, how it relates to the City of Chino, and components of the work effort. At the end of the presentation, you will learn how you can provide input through an online community survey.
Hello, I'm Chino Mayor Eunice Shiloah. Our recent experience with COVID-19 has helped us to realize that our homes are the heart of every community. But did you know that state law requires all local governments to adequately plan to meet the housing needs of everyone in all economic segments of the community? We are launching an update of that plan called the Housing Element, and we need your input so that it meets existing and projected future housing needs, but also so that it reflects your vision of Chino. Chino has always prided itself on having something for everyone, with an abundance of housing options and lifestyle choices, senior housing, an apartment close to a park, horse property, and everything in between. The Housing Element is a policy document that will shape the future of housing in Chino, prioritizing the values expressed by our stakeholders. It also opens the door to that future by making the city eligible for grants and funding sources in support of the plan. The Housing Element is in part about numbers and projections so that we can demonstrate the city's ability to meet future housing growth, but it is uniquely our own plan, reflecting both our past and present and the future to which we aspire. Sounds like a pretty important document, right? Well, it is. You are a critical stakeholder in this community, so get involved in the development of the Housing Element and help us shape the future of housing in Chino. While we'd normally want to hear from you in person, this year we ask you to engage with us online. First, watch the presentation. Second, please take the survey. And third, learn more by visiting www.cityofchino.org/housing element. Now, our Director of Development Services, Nick Ligori, will tell us more about this important planning document for our city.
Thank you for that introduction, Mayor Ulloa. Again, my name is Nick Ligori. I'm your Director of Development Services for the City of Chino. Not only do I work for the city, but this is also a place that my family and I call home. City is a very special place, and anytime we look at long-range planning for our future, it's very important, critical, that we have the input of the folks who live and work in our city. And that's where I'm asking for your help. Normally, when we start a long-range planning process, like the Housing Element Update, I'd be coming to you, be going to a neighborhood meeting or some type of community gathering where I'd be listening to you, answering your questions, and we'd be discussing the importance of this project. Since we can't do that right now, we're taking our outreach online. I'd ask you to log into our website at cityofchino.org/housing element, and please participate in the survey that we've developed. That will provide us critical input as we go through this process. Now, you may be asking why we're doing this. What is a housing element? Well, every city in California is required to plan on an 8-year cycle for the growth that's going to happen. And we have to have a housing plan that shows how we can accommodate housing at all different income levels and for all different kinds of people over that next 8 years. So this is where that survey input is critical, because it will help us to tailor a plan that's unique to Chino. We've hired a consultant, Kimley Horn and Associates, to help us with the legal and technical aspects of the plan, but we really want to hear from you to help us develop a plan for Chino. Now, you go ahead and do the survey, but if you want to talk to someone, go ahead and give me a call. My number is 909-334-3331, and myself or one of my planning staff will be happy to talk with you, answer your questions, discuss the project, and get your input on that. Now I'm going to turn it over to our consultant, so please continue watching. They'll give you a more detailed view of what a housing element is and how we're going to put it together.
This presentation will cover a summary of existing housing conditions in Chino, an overview of the housing element update process, the Regional Housing Needs Assessment Process, or what is commonly known as RHNA, that identifies the city's share of projected housing unit growth from 2021 through 2029, the city's process and content requirements for updating the housing element, and the project schedule and next steps in the process. To better understand the City of Chino, here is a review of summary demographic information that may be helpful. In 2018, the American Community Survey estimated that 34% of all residents within Chino were Hispanic or Latino of any race, while 32% of residents identified as white. The graphic on the screen shows a further breakdown of the major race and ethnic groups within Chino. The City of Chino's population has steadily increased over the past decade. Since 2010, it is estimated that more than 8,000 new residents moved to Chino. Housing in Chino is primarily composed of single-unit detached houses, similar to what you would see in residential neighborhoods throughout California. As of 2018, almost 70% of Chino's housing units were detached single-family structures. These types of houses are considered low-density residential development. Multifamily units, including apartments and condominiums, comprise 23% of housing units within the city. Approximately 62% of Chino's households are married couples with or without children. 22% of households are considered non-family, meaning individuals living alone or with roommates. An additional 16% are female head of households with no spouse present. As shown, 62% of households within Chino are occupied by the homeowner. The remaining 38% are renter-occupied units, consisting of apartments or houses that are leased. Lastly, the majority of the housing within Chino was built between 1970 and 2009. The following slides describe the process for updating the city's housing element for the 2021 through 2029 planning period. The housing element is one of the required elements or chapters of the city's general plan. The housing element is unique because it must be updated on a regular schedule and reviewed by the state for compliance with state housing law. The housing element demonstrates that Chino has the ability to accommodate estimated future housing growth. The housing element identifies housing goals, policies, programs, and objectives the city will commit to in order to address existing and future housing needs in Chino. Examples of housing goals may include providing housing for residents at all income levels within the community or encouraging streamlined development application review. The housing element must identify sites to accommodate future housing needs at all income levels. These income categories include lower income, moderate income, and above moderate income as defined by the state of California. Chino's Area Median Income, or AMI, is based on the average median for San Bernardino County. Lastly, the housing element must be reviewed by the State Department of Housing and Community Development, or HCD, for compliance with state laws. The housing element demonstrates that Chino is able to accommodate the amount of anticipated housing growth between 2021 and 2029. This is determined by the analysis of demographic and economics, growth trends, and other land use, housing, and development information. Housing needs within any community change frequently as a result of growing populations, changes in technology, and other local factors. Due to this, it is important to continually review and update the housing element to ensure the city is able to plan adequately for its future. The housing element update process allows the city's residents to engage in dialogue about future growth in Chino. This process includes multiple steps and is a vital part of a successful housing element update. Updating the housing element ensures the city is compliant with current state housing laws and provides other benefits such as becoming eligible for state grants and funding sources. When a housing element is reviewed by the state and found to meet the requirements of state law, it is deemed certified. The certified housing element is a complete plan demonstrating the city's actions to meet their existing and future housing growth need. As previously mentioned, This also means that the city may become eligible for certain state assistance programs, grants, and alternative funding sources. The housing element is made up of 5 main sections. The population and housing profile provides baseline demographic and housing statistics that support future policy recommendations. The city will also look at current adopted 2012 through 2021 housing element policy program to review progress in implementing its programs and actions. The housing element assesses potential constraints to the development of housing and available resources to be able to mitigate or potentially remove those constraints. If constraints are identified, the city will develop policies with specific actions that may be taken to address them. The city must also identify appropriate housing sites to meet the city's RHNA allocation. This may include existing available residentially zoned sites or sites that could accommodate housing in the future. Lastly, the city will develop policies and programs that describe specific actions the city will take to meet its housing goals. These sections will also identify the resources needed to complete those actions and the anticipated timeline for implementation. The following slides provide information on Chino's Regional Housing Needs Assessment, or commonly referred to as RHNA. The Regional Housing Needs Assessment identifies the number of housing units within the very low, moderate, and above moderate income categories that the city must accommodate during the 2021 through 2029 planning period. The RHNA allocation is generally based on future growth in population, employment, and households. The amount of housing units is first determined by the state of California for each regional planning agency in California. Chino's regional planning agency is the Southern California Association of Governments, or SCAG. SCAG's regional need determination is then allocated to each of SCAG's member jurisdictions. SCAG develops the methodology for determining each city's fair share amount of housing units by income category. The RHNA process is expected to be completed in late 2020. This table identifies the 4 defined income categories, which are income ranges that determine affordability by income range. The city must provide housing opportunity for persons with all income ranges. It should be noted that the City of Chino is not required to build these units, but must provide the ability for the private housing market to do so. The city will conduct a detailed sites analysis to identify sites that provide opportunities to meet projected housing unit need. The city may consider vacant land, underutilized uses, older shopping centers or former school sites, publicly owned land, and other locations. Additionally, there is opportunity for the public to identify sites during the planning process. One area that may not be considered is the city's sphere of influence area. This land is currently located within County of San Bernardino jurisdiction and is counted as part of the County of San Bernardino's RHNA need. This presentation is the first in a series of outreach efforts the City of Chino will undertake to engage the community and gather input on the housing element update process. Community input, including residents, business owners, and other stakeholders, is critical to a successful update of any plan. The city intends to make every effort possible to engage members of the community who want to be involved in shaping the future of Chino. The first steps in the housing element update process are informing the community about the housing element, gathering input, and updating the city's demographic profile. With the information gained, the city will develop a draft housing element and work with HCD to get a certified housing element document. Throughout the process, the city will continue to engage the community, including a public review and comment period for the draft document. Once it's reviewed by HCD and the public, the document will be brought to the Planning Commission and City Council for adoption. The housing element update will follow the schedule shown here. The schedule is tentative and subject to change based on timelines established by the state of California. The Housing Elements webpage, provided at the end of this presentation, will maintain the most current housing element update schedule. The city has created a dedicated webpage with access to all public information relating to the housing element update. The link is shown on your screen. Please check the website regularly for project updates and information. The city also wants to hear from you about the future of housing within Chino. An online community survey has been developed that gives residents and other interested parties the ability to let the project team know what is most important to you when discussing housing. Please use the directions on the screen to access the survey. The next slide has further instructions on how to take the survey once you've accessed it. The instructions on the screen provide information on how to take the survey. There are 5 slides in total, and it is estimated to take between 5 and 15 minutes to complete. Once complete, please click Submit Final Questions to ensure your response is collected. This information will be compiled and analyzed to help make policy and site recommendations within the housing element. If you have any questions, please contact Warren Morellian at one of the methods shown on the screen or visit the Housing Element webpage for more information. We appreciate you taking the time to learn about the city's housing element update and provide input on this important process. Thank you.